The Mother's Day Mimosa Massacre, a novel by Margaret Maggie Thompson. Chapter 1. The Golden Years. I am Margaret Thompson, though to the thousands of sticky-fingered kindergartners who passed through my classroom at Pine Grove Elementary in Orlando over 35 years, I was simply Mrs. T. The name stuck like glitter on construction paper. Even now, at 65, when I run into a former student in the Publix produce aisle or at the mall at Millennia, they still light up and call me that. Mrs. T, remember when we hatched those painted lady butterflies and one landed on your nose? I'd laugh because of course I remembered. Those moments were etched deeper than any lesson plan. My hair, once a blazing auburn that Tom used to call autumn fire, had softened over the decades into a silver that caught the Florida morning light like threads of Spanish moss draped across a live oak. Laugh lines framed my eyes, deep parentheses from years of smiling at children's triumphs and quietly grieving their small tragedies. I wore them proudly. They were proof I had lived fully. My hands, though, told a different story. Knuckles slightly enlarged from decades of gripping chalk, cutting construction paper, tying shoelaces, and later, tending the garden beds that had become my therapy after Tom left this world. Legacy Point at UCF wasn't merely a retirement community. It was a carefully engineered haven in Oviedo, that quiet pocket northeast of Orlando, where the University of Central Florida's sprawling campus bled into stands of longleaf pine and scrub oak. The developers had marketed it as a life plan community, which sounded grander than it needed to. In plain English, it meant you could move in healthy, stay through assisted living if needed, and transition to skilled nursing without ever packing another box. For someone like me, who had spent a lifetime planning field trips, parent conferences, and lesson units, it felt like the perfect curriculum for aging. My villa sat toward the back of the property, a single-story, two-bedroom stucco number painted a soft sage green that blended with the surrounding palms. Number 1427 Laurel Lane. The address always made me smile. Laurel for victory, and I'd felt victorious the day I signed the papers. A wide-screened lanai wrapped around the back, overlooking a retention pond that locals called Gator Lake, with affectionate exaggeration. The water was the color of weak tea most days, ringed with cattails and pickerel weed. Alligators lounged on the far bank like sunburned tourists too lazy to move, their armored hides gleaming when the sun hit just right. I'd named the biggest one Clarence after my high school history teacher, slow, deliberate, and surprisingly harmless unless provoked. Mornings were sacred. I'd arise around 6:45, the sky still bruised with night, and pad to the kitchen in my worn terry-cloth robe. The coffee maker, Tom's old Mr. Coffee, stubbornly refusing to die, would already be gurgling with Community Coffee's breakfast blend, the chicory-laced aroma filling the small space. I'd pour a generous mug, add a splash of half and half, never skim, life is too short, and step onto the lanai. The porch swing creaked under my weight, a comforting sound, like an old friend sighing hello. From that swing, I watched the world wait. First came the anhingas, those strange water turkeys stretching their wings to dry after diving for fish. Then the great blue herons, stalking the shallows with prehistoric patience. Sometimes a family of sandhill cranes would parade past, their red crowns bright against gray feathers, bugling calls that carried across the water like rusty trumpets. Overhead, ibis flew in ragged V formation toward feeding grounds, with their curved bills silhouetted against the rising sun. And always, the alligators, silent, ancient, a reminder that Florida's beauty came with teeth. By 7:30, the air would thicken with humidity and the faint perfume of orange blossoms drifting from the remaining groves along Alafaya Trail. Development had chewed up most of them, but a few stubborn acres clung on, stubborn as the retirees who refused to leave the state when snowbirds flew north. I'd sip slowly, letting the caffeine chase away the last cobwebs of sleep, and think about the day ahead. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays were pool days. The Olympic-sized pool at the community center was my domain, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., sharp. Aqua Angels, a name chosen by Evelyn Hargrove back in 2012 when the group first formed. Evelyn, a retired high school principal from Lansing, Michigan, still ran the class with military precision, despite being 81. "Legs up, ladies. Pretend you're marching against the communists," she'd bark, demonstrating high knee lifts from the shallow end while wearing a turquoise swim cap dotted with plastic daisies. The class was a cross-section of Central Florida's senior population, former teachers like me, engineers who'd worked on the space program at Kennedy, nurses, accountants, a retired Orange County Sheriff's deputy named Ray who still carried his badge in his wallet just in case. We splashed, laughed, complained about arthritis, and shared the kind of gossip that only thrives in chlorine-scented air. "Did you hear about the new couple in 318? She caught him texting his ex from the 1970s. No. Yes, said she was just checking on his sciatica." Laughter would ripple across the water, louder than the pump motors. After class, I'd towel off, change in the locker room that always smelled stately of coconut sunscreen and Bengay, and head to the bistro for a late breakfast. The on-site cafe served a decent Eggs Benedict and the best key lime pie in a 20-mile radius, tart enough to make your jaw ache in the best way. I'd sit at the corner table by the window, nursing a second coffee, and watch the maintenance crew trim the sable palms or pressure wash the walkways. Routine. Comforting. Mine. Afternoons varied. Tuesday and Thursday were garden club. We'd meet in the shaded courtyard behind the clubhouse, a circle of folding chairs under a live oak draped with resurrection fern. The club had 23 members on paper, but attendance hovered around 12 to 15, depending on doctor's appointments and grandkid visits. Gloria Delgado, the retired ER nurse from New Jersey, always brought homemade empanadas. Evelyn contributed brutal honesty and a thermos of spiked lemonade. I brought heirloom tomato seedlings in spring, zucchini blossoms in summer, and stories year-round. Our plots were small, raised beds assigned by lot number, but we treated them like estates. Mine, number 14, sat in full sun near the irrigation timer. Last season, I'd grown Cherokee purple tomatoes so dark they looked bruised, brandywine pinks the size of softballs, and a row of Thai basil that perfumed the entire row. Garden talk was therapy. We discussed soil pH, the latest blight scare, whether to mulch with pine straw or cypress, never oak leaves, too acidic. But we also talked life. Gloria's daughter was fighting breast cancer in Tampa. Evelyn, her son, had just come out at 54. She was proud, but terrified of what the church ladies would say. I shared memories of Tom, how he'd plant marigolds every spring to keep the nematodes away and the evil spirits, too. They listened without pity, just the quiet understanding of women who'd outlived husbands, dreams, or both. And then there was Derek. My only child arrived in 1988 after 7 years of trying, 3 miscarriages, and more doctor's visits than I cared to count. When the nurse placed him in my arms, 8 pounds, 2 ounces, already sporting Tom's lopsided grin, I felt the universe click into place. We named him Derek Allen Thompson, after my grandfather and Tom's middle name. He grew up in the Winter Park House on Temple Drive, a modest ranch with a backyard big enough for a swing set and a vegetable garden. He learned to ride a bike on that driveway, lost his first tooth eating corn on the cob at the kitchen table, and cried for 3 days straight when our golden retriever, Max, passed at 14. Derek was book smart from the start, straight A's, science fair ribbons, a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist. He chose computer science at UCF, right in our backyard, and landed an internship at Disney his junior year. They hired him full-time after graduation. Now, 38, he spent his days buried in code, debugging virtual queues for Rise of the Resistance, optimizing parade apps so families didn't melt down waiting for the 3 o'clock show, writing scripts that made fireworks sync perfectly with music over Cinderella Castle. He lived in Windermere now, in a 5-bedroom McMansion with a 3-car garage, screened pool with attached spa, and a home theater that could seat 12. The house was Vanessa's dream, bought 6 months after the wedding. White kitchen cabinets, quartz countertops, pendant lights that looked like upside-down wine glasses. It felt more like a showroom than a home, but Derek said it made her happy. Vanessa Whittemore Thompson entered our lives 3 years ago like a hurricane wrapped in athleisure. 29, blonde waves that never seemed to frizz despite the humidity, lips enhanced just enough to look natural in photos but obvious up close. Her Instagram, at Vanessa Glow Queen, had exploded to over 250,000 followers. She posted sunlit selfies in matching sports bras and leggings, smoothie bowls artfully arranged with edible flowers, motivational captions overlaid on golden hour shots. Your only limit is the one you accept. Rise, grind, glow. Hashtag #FitOver30. Manifest your best life. They met at a CrossFit gym in Miami during one of her influencer retreats. Derek had gone for a weekend certification course. She was there leading a pop-up class. He told me later she spotted him struggling with double unders and offered to coach him. By the end of the weekend, they were dating. 6 months later, engaged on a Key West sunset cruise. Married at a vineyard in Claremont with 180 guests, fairy lights, and a live band that played Sweet Caroline while everyone danced barefoot on the grass. At first, I loved her. She called me Mama Maggie with that syrupy Georgia drawl she'd never quite lost despite years in Florida. She'd show up at my villa with green juices and enthusiasm, insisting I join her for a gentle flow yoga session at Lake Eola. "You're a rock star, Maggie," she'd cheer, filming me attempting downward dog for her stories. Derek would beam from the sidelines, proud as if he'd personally invented her. Sundays felt whole again. Brunch at Ethos Vegan Kitchen or Winter Park's Barney's Coffee, Derek telling stories about the latest park glitch. Some guy in Ohio thinks the app is possessed because it keeps logging him out. Vanessa posting boomerang videos of mimosas clinking. For a while, the family picture was perfect. Then, the smoothies started. It was a Sunday ritual that began innocently enough. Vanessa would arrive around noon, Tesla Model Y humming quietly into my driveway, a 32-ounce Yeti tumbler in her manicured hand. "Fresh blend, Mama M," she'd announce, stepping inside in Lululemon leggings that looked painted on. Kale, spinach, frozen banana, chia, flax, and my secret adaptogen mix. Turmeric for inflammation, ashwagandha for stress, lion's mane for cognition. It's like youth in a cup. I'd smile, thank her, take a polite sip. The taste was always the same. Bitter greens undercut by artificial sweetness, gritty from the powders, faintly metallic at the back of the throat. But it was family. Gratitude. Love in liquid form, right? The effects crept in slowly. First, it was small things. I'd set my reading glasses down and forget where, only to find them perched on my head 10 minutes later. I'd walk into the kitchen for a glass of water and stand there blinking. Purpose evaporated. During Thursday bingo at the community center, I'd stare at the caller as if she'd switched languages mid-sentence. "B14? Maggie, that's you." Evelyn would nudge me. I'd laugh it off. Senior moment. Happens to the best of us. But the fog thickened. I'd miss water aerobics because I'd written it on the wrong day in my planner. I'd call Derek to tell him about the new tomato variety I'd planted, only for him to say gently, "Mom, you told me that yesterday." I'd hang up, feeling foolish, unsettled. My garden club friends noticed too. Evelyn cornered me one afternoon by the koi pond, iced tea sweating in plastic cups. "Maggie, honey, you've seemed a little scattered lately. Everything all right at home?" Gloria, ever the nurse, tilted her head. "Any new meds? Dizziness? Word-finding trouble?" I shook my head. "Just the heat. Or maybe Tom's ghost playing tricks on my memory. Derek picked up on it during our weekly Zoom. His home office backdrop was a wall of Star Wars posters and glowing monitors. "Mom, you okay? You forgot to call Aunt Linda for her birthday last week." Vanessa appeared over his shoulder, face arranged in perfect concern. "It's actually super common, babe. I was reading this NIH article. Cognitive changes can start in the mid-60s. Perimenopause echoes, mild impairment, all that. We should get her to see Dr. Patel. Better safe." I booked the appointment the next day. Dr. Raj Patel ran the wellness center at Legacy Point. Mid-50s, kind eyes behind wire frames, always smelling faintly of cardamom from the chai his wife brewed each morning. He listened patiently as I described the lapses, ordered blood work, thyroid, B12, vitamin D, a mini mental state exam that I aced except for the serial 7s. I got to 93 before stumbling. He even sent me for an MRI at Advent Health's imaging center off Lake Underhill. Results came back 2 weeks later. He slid the printouts across his desk. "Everything looks excellent, Maggie. No acute changes, no masses, no significant atrophy. Cholesterol's borderline. Cut back on the key lime pie," he smiled. "Stress, perhaps? Or the infamous Florida humidity. Start fish oil, stay hydrated, keep the grain active. We'll recheck in 6 months." Relief washed over me like cool pool water. I wasn't losing my mind. I was just 65. But doubt is patient. It waits in the corners, growing roots like the air potato vines that choke the preserve behind Legacy Point. Every forgotten name, every misplaced key, every moment I blanked mid-sentence fed it. And Vanessa, sweet, concerned Vanessa, was always there with another smoothie, another article forwarded to Derek, another gentle suggestion. "Have you considered a cognitive assessment with a specialist, Mama M? Just for peace of mind." "Maggie, I found this gorgeous assisted living community in Kissimmee, Shady Palms. They have gardening programs. Imagine not worrying about weeding." Derek would call afterward. "She means well, Mom. She's worried. We both are." I wanted to believe it. What I didn't know, what no one knew, was that the gardener had already begun her work. The seeds were planted months earlier, tiny doses hidden in vibrant green liquid. The harvest would come later, bitter and final. But on those quiet mornings on the Lanaya, watching Clarence the alligator slide silently into the water, I still believed my golden years were truly golden. I still believed the only poison in my life was the occasional overindulgence in key lime pie. I still believed family was the safest place to be. Chapter 2. Shadows and the Sunshine, expanded. The poisoning didn't announce itself with thunder or dramatic music cues. It arrived the way most real dangers do in Florida, quietly, persistently, wrapped in the kind of everyday humidity that makes you forget you're slowly being soaked until your clothes cling and your skin feels wrong. It began in earnest Sunday after Halloween 2023. The neighborhood kids had finished their trick-or-treating circuit through Legacy Point the night before. They'd come in waves, tiny Spider-Men, Elsa clones with plastic tiaras slipping off sweaty foreheads, zombies whose green face paint had already started melting into their collars. At 8 o'clock, the street lights had taken over and the last stragglers were gone. I turned off the porch light, locked the door, and went to bed feeling pleasantly tired, the way only a holiday that involves children can leave you. Sunday morning, I woke up to the usual symphony: mockingbirds arguing in the sable palm outside my bedroom window, the distant whine of a leaf blower 2 streets over, Clarence the alligator sliding off his sunning log with a soft plop into the retention pond. I made coffee, carried it to the Lanaya, and was halfway through my first cup when the Tesla arrived. Vanessa never knocked loudly. She had a particular rhythm: 2 quick taps, pause, then 1 more, like she was afraid of seeming pushy while still making sure you knew she was there. I opened the door to find her balancing 3 Whole Foods paper bags and that trademark megawatt smile. "Mama Maggie, happy post-Halloween Sunday." Her voice was bright, almost musical. "I made way too much soup last night. Derek's on a coding sprint and barely ate, so I thought, why not share the love?" She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, the way people do when they've decided they're family. The bags smelled of warm spices and coconut. She set them on the quartz island in my kitchen and began unpacking. Butternut squash, coconut milk, a little ginger, cinnamon, turmeric, and a secret pinch of nutmeg. Super anti-inflammatory, perfect for this weird October weather. She pulled out a large glass container filled with golden orange puree. I already heated it up at home, so it's ready to go. I smiled, because that's what you do when someone brings you food. That's so thoughtful, honey. Let me get bowls. She waved me off. Sit. I've got this. She moved around my kitchen with easy familiarity, opening the right cabinet for bowls on the first try, finding the spoons in the drawer beside the sink without asking. It should have felt comforting. Instead, a tiny prickle ran down my neck, the same one I used to get when a student was too helpful right before confessing they'd accidentally spilled paint on someone else's art project. She ladled the soup into my favorite mug, the white ceramic one with the faded World's Best Teacher logo that Tom had bought me in 1995 at a teacher supply store in Castleberry. She even added a swirl of coconut cream on top, drawing a little heart with a spoon tip. Here you go, Mama M. Bottoms up for joint health and glowing skin. She handed me the mug, steam curling between us. I took a sip. Warm, velvety, a little sweet, a little savory. The ginger gave it bite. The squash smoothed it out. It tasted expensive, clean, intentional. Delicious, I said honestly. You're spoiling me. That's the plan. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me drink. Not in a creepy way exactly, just attentive, like a nurse waiting to see if the medication took effect. I finished half the mug before setting it down. So how's the influencer world treating you? Any new collabs? Her face lit up. Actually, yes. Vitality Fuel wants me to launch a limited edition Glow Greens powder. We're shooting the promo reel next week at Wekiva Springs. Natural lights, golden hour, the whole aesthetic. Derek's helping me edit the captions. He's so good at making them sound authentic. That's wonderful. I'm proud of you both. She beamed, then glanced at the mug. Finish that while it's hot. The adaptogens work best when they're fresh. I drank the rest to be polite. By 2 o'clock, she was gone, off to a Pilates class, then content planning. I cleared the dishes, rinsed the soup container, and felt the first faint wave hit around 4. It started behind my eyes, a dull pressure, like someone had tightened a band around my skull. My stomach rolled, not violently, just a slow, queasy churn. I lay down on the couch intending to rest for 20 minutes. When I opened my eyes again, the room was dim, the wall clock reading 7:14. I'd slept through the afternoon news, dinner time, and the golden hour I usually spent watering the garden. I sat up slowly. The room tilted, then steadied. My mouth tasted metallic, as though I'd bitten a penny. I chalked it up to a stomach bug. October was when the seasonal viruses started circulating through the community center. I drank water, ate a piece of toast, went to bed early. The next morning, I felt better, mostly, but something was off. I arrived at water aerobics 10 minutes late, unheard of for me. Evelyn raised an eyebrow from the shallow end. Maggie Thompson, did you oversleep? You're usually here setting up the noodles. I joked. Must have hit snooze one too many times. But inside, I was unsettled. I never hit snooze. My internal clock had been set to teacher time for decades. During class, I fumbled the routine. High knee lifts felt heavy. I lost count of the reps. Ray, the retired deputy, noticed. You all right, Teach? You look a little green around the gills. I said, just didn't sleep great. Probably coming down with something. That evening, Derek called. His voice came through the speakerphone while I was folding laundry. Mom, Vanessa said you seemed out of it yesterday. Everything okay? I paused, a towel half folded in my hands. You told her that? Yeah, said you zoned out a couple of times while she was there. She was worried. I replayed the visit in my head. Had I zoned out? I couldn't remember. The soup, the conversation, it all felt normal. I think I just ate too much butternut squash, heavy on the stomach. He laughed softly. Okay, but promise me you'll tell me if something's wrong. Vanessa's been reading up on senior health stuff. She's really into it. I promise, I'm fine, honey. But the pattern had begun. November brought cooler nights and the first wave of snowbirds trickling back into Florida. It also brought more visits from Vanessa. She started coming twice a week instead of once, always with something, a detox tea blend she'd customized for me, homemade energy balls rolled in coconut flakes, a mason jar of overnight oats with chia and berries. Each delivery came with the same warm smile and the same careful observation while I took the first bite or sip. You have to try this one, Mama M. It's got reishi mushroom, great for immune support and mental clarity. I'd sip, I'd thank her, and later, hours or sometimes the next day, the fog would roll in.
Maggie, sweetheart, she said afterward in the parking lot, you've been off your game lately. Is it the eyes, the ears, something else? I shook my head. I don't know, maybe I need new reading glasses. Gloria wasn't as gentle. Have you had a full blood panel recently? B12, thyroid, iron. Sometimes it's simple. I saw Dr. Patel in September. Everything was normal. Then get a second opinion. Don't wait. I promised I would, but the promise got buried under holiday prep, Thanksgiving planning, Christmas card lists, ordering poinsettias for the lanai. Derek and Vanessa hosted Thanksgiving that year at the Windermere house. 20 people. Derek's college buddies, Vanessa's CrossFit crew, a couple of Disney colleagues, and me. The dining room table groaned under turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, Vanessa's signature quinoa stuffing, gluten-free and gut-friendly, and 3 kinds of pie. Vanessa seated me at the head of the table opposite Derek. She kept my water glass full, my plate topped up. Halfway through the meal, she leaned over and whispered, "How's the stuffing, Mama M? I used your recipe but added some adaptogens for extra love." I chewed slowly. It tasted fine, a little earthier than usual maybe. I smiled. Perfect. After dessert, people drifted to the living room for football. I excused myself to the guest bathroom. When I came out, Vanessa was waiting in the hallway, holding a small glass of green liquid. "Nightcap smoothie," she said, "to help with digestion after all that food. Kale, pineapple, ginger, and my special blend." I hesitated. My stomach already felt full, borderline uncomfortable. "I'm stuffed, honey. Maybe later?" Her face fell, just for a second, but I caught it. Then the smile returned. "Of course, I'll save it for tomorrow. You can take it home." She poured it into a to-go cup with a lid. I thanked her, hugged Derek goodbye, and drove back to Legacy Point with the cup in the passenger seat, like a silent passenger. I didn't drink it that night. It sat in the fridge until Tuesday, when guilt made me pour it down the sink. The green liquid swirled down the drain, leaving faint streaks on the white porcelain. By Christmas, the episodes were more frequent. I'd wake up and not remember falling asleep on the couch. I'd find notes to myself on Post-its around the house, water tomatoes at 4 p.m., and have no memory of writing them. One afternoon, I called Derek 3 times in 20 minutes, each time asking the same question, "What time are you picking me up for dinner?" He answered patiently the first 2 times. The third time, his voice tightened. "Mom, you just asked me that. Are you feeling okay?" I stared at the phone. "I did? Yeah, maybe you should see Dr. Patel again." I made the appointment for January 8th. In the meantime, Vanessa ramped up. She started accompanying me to doctor visits. "I want to help take notes," she'd say, "and make sure all the questions get asked." She'd sit in the exam room with her phone open to a notes app, typing furiously while Dr. Patel spoke. Afterward, she'd summarize for Derek in the car. Blood pressure's good, labs mostly normal, but he mentioned possible early mild cognitive impairment, suggested a neurology referral. I never remembered him using those exact words. She began dropping hints about future planning. One Sunday in February, she arrived with printed brochures for Shady Palms Assisted Living in Kissimmee. Glossy pages showed smiling seniors in sun hats, doing chair yoga, walking manicured paths lined with bougainvillea, eating meals in a dining room with chandeliers. Look at this place, Mama M. They have a full gardening program, raised beds, greenhouse, even a master gardener on staff, and 24/7 nursing. If, God forbid, anything ever happened, you'd be taken care of. I stared at the brochure. The smiling woman on the cover looked drugged with happiness. I'm not ready for that, Vanessa. Of course not. This is just preparation. Derek and I were talking. It might give us all peace of mind. I set the brochure down. I have peace of mind. I'm in my own home. I'm independent. She touched my arm lightly. We know. We just love you so much. Love. The word hung between us, heavy and sharp. That same month, Derek brought up power of attorney. We were having dinner at their house, takeout sushi from Sapporo on Turkey Lake Road. Vanessa had accidentally ordered extra wasabi, knowing I loved the burn. Mom, said Derek carefully, setting down his chopsticks, Derek and I were thinking, maybe we should get your legal stuff in order, just in case. Power of attorney, updated will, healthcare proxy. It's responsible. I looked from him to her. Vanessa's face was arranged in gentle concern. I already have those things, I said. Tom and I did them years ago. You're the executor, Gloria's the healthcare proxy. Derek shifted. Yeah, but things change. Vanessa's been reading up on Florida law. It's smart to have a durable POA that's more specific, and maybe name a successor. Vanessa nodded. Even found a great elder law attorney in Winter Park. We could go together, make it easy. I felt the room shrink. I'll think about it. They dropped it, for then, but the seeds were sprouting. By March, the symptoms had names in my head, even if I didn't say them out loud. Brain fog, fatigue that pinned me to the couch, moments of blankness so complete I'd lose 5 minutes staring at nothing. My garden suffered. The tomatoes wilted from inconsistent watering. The Thai basil bolted. I blamed the heat, the irregular rain, anything but myself. Gloria cornered me after garden club one Thursday. Maggie, look at your nails. I held out my hands. Thin white lines ran horizontally across several fingernails. Me's lines, she called them. Seen them in the ER, she said quietly. Heavy metal poisoning. Arsenic, sometimes thallium. When did they start? I couldn't remember. A few months? She looked at me hard. Get blood work. Full toxicology screen. Don't tell anyone first. Not Derek, not her. Just do it. I nodded, but fear kept me from acting right away. What if it was nothing? What if it was everything? April arrived with azaleas in violent bloom and more visits from Vanessa. She'd taken to bringing pre-made meals in glass containers, soups, stews, smoothies labeled with dates and ingredients in her neat handwriting. I started pouring them down the sink when she left, guilt gnawing at me. Wasteful, ungrateful, paranoid. But the fog kept coming. One Sunday in late April, she arrived with a batch of her signature energy balls, dates, almonds, cacao, and a special superfood boost. I ate one to be polite. 2 hours later, I was on the bathroom floor, vomiting until my ribs ached, sweat soaking my shirt. I called Gloria. She came over immediately, took one look at me, and drove me to Advent Health's urgent care on Alafaya. They ran basic panels. Nothing dramatic showed up. Probably food poisoning, the PA said. Take it easy. But Gloria wasn't convinced. That wasn't food poisoning, she told me in the parking lot. That was acute exposure. You need a real tox screen. Tomorrow. I'll go with you. I agreed. The next day, we drove to a lab in Winter Park. I paid out of pocket, used a different name on the requisition, Gloria's idea. Don't give them a trail yet. Results took a week. When they came back, Gloria called me from her lanai. Chronic low-level arsenic. Not enough for acute crisis yet, but enough to explain everything. The fog, the fatigue, the nails, the GI issues. Maggie, someone's been giving this to you. I sat down hard on the couch. Who? I whispered, though I already knew. Gloria's voice was steel. You tell me. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. The smoothies, the soups, the teas, the energy balls. The concern, the brochures, the gentle pressure about guardianship, assisted living, power of attorney. The way she always watched me take the first sip. I thought of Derek's face when he talked about her, soft, trusting, in love. I thought of Tom, how he'd always said, family is the one place you should never have to guard your back. I cried then, quiet, angry tears into my pillow. Because the monster hadn't come from outside. It had been sitting at my kitchen island, calling me Mama Maggie, feeding me poison with a smile. And the worst part? I had thanked her for it.
Chapter 3. The Toast. Expanded. Mother's Day 2025 dawned with the kind of flawless Central Florida morning that tourism boards dream about when they make promotional videos. The sky was a seamless wash of pale blue, fading to deeper cerulean at the horizon, not a single cloud daring to interrupt. Temperature at 7 a.m., 76 degrees, with a dew point that promised full humidity by noon. A light breeze carried the scent of orange blossoms from the few surviving groves along Alafaya Trail and the sweeter perfume of Confederate jasmine climbing the fences of Legacy Point. Mockingbirds sang territorial anthems from the sable palms, and hingas stretched black wings on cypress knees in the retention pond. Clarence, the alligator, floated half-submerged, eyes just above the waterline like dark periscopes tracking the slow awakening of the world. I woke at 6:42. 3 minutes before the alarm I still set out of habit, even though retirement had long since erased the need. The bedroom smelled faintly of lavender from the sachet Gloria had given me last Christmas. Sunlight already slanted through the plantation shutters in golden bars across the bamboo floor. I lay there for a full minute, listening to the quiet rhythm of my own breathing, feeling the small miracle of another day granted. 65 Mother's Days. The first 23 spent as a daughter receiving store-bought cards and clumsy carnations from my parents, the next 38 as a mother, giving and receiving in roughly equal measure, the last 5 spent as both, orphan and matriarch, the roles collapsed into one. This would be the first Mother's Day since the poisoning attempt that had nearly ended me 13 months earlier. The irony was not lost on me. I rose, slipped into my robe, padded to the kitchen. The Mr. Coffee machine, still Tom's, still refusing to die, began its familiar gurgle as soon as I pressed the button. Community breakfast blend with chicory, 1 splash of half and half. Mug in hand, I stepped onto the lanai. The porch swing creaked under my weight. I sat facing east, watching the light strengthen over Gator Lake. A great blue heron stalked the shallows with slow-motion dignity. Sandhill cranes bugled somewhere beyond the tree line. Clarence submerged with barely a ripple. For a long moment, everything felt ordinary, safe, predictable. Mine. At 8:47, my phone buzzed on the glass-topped side table. Derek's name on the screen. FaceTime. I answered. His face filled the frame, still boyish at 39, but the lines around his eyes had deepened since last May. He was in the kitchen of the Windermere house, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. "Morning, Mom. Happy Mother's Day." His smile was genuine but careful, the way smiles become when someone has learned that joy can fracture without warning. "Happy Mother's Day to you too, sweetheart, even though technically it's not yours to have." He laughed softly. "I get honorary status. Listen, we're still on for brunch. The Boathouse. Same table they gave us last year. Vanessa booked it weeks ago."
The name landed like a stone dropped into still water. Vanessa was still in county jail awaiting transfer to Lowell Correctional Institution after sentencing. She was not invited. She would never be invited again. Derek caught my micro-expression, the slight tightening at the corners of my mouth. "It's just us," he added quickly. "You, me, and Sarah. She's bringing flowers. Real ones, not the edible kind she tried to make last time." Sarah, the ER nurse who held Derek's hand in the Advent Health waiting room while Vanessa fought for her life in the ICU, who sat with him on my lanai at 2 a.m. when he couldn't stop replaying every conversation he'd ever had with her wife, who had quietly moved most of her things into the Windermere house 3 months ago without fanfare or drama. Sarah, who called me Maggie instead of Mama Maggie and meant it as respect, not diminishment. "I'm looking forward to it," I told him, and I was. We talked for another 10 minutes about the new parade app he was debugging, about Sarah's upcoming shift schedule, about my heirloom tomatoes finally setting fruit after last year's near total loss. Normal things. Safe things. After we hung up, I carried my coffee back inside and began preparations. Shower, hair washed, blown dry, left mostly natural with soft waves of silver threaded through the remaining auburn. Makeup minimal, mascara, a touch of blush, the same rose lipstick I'd worn since 1998. Dress, floral maxi from Nordstrom Rack, pale blue background scattered with white and yellow blossoms, 3/4 sleeves, flowing skirt that moved when I walked. Mock pearl studs Tom had given me on our 30th anniversary. White Keds, comfort over fashion at this point in life. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in the bedroom for a long moment. The woman looking back had survived. The thought brought a small, private smile. At 10:15, I locked the villa, set the alarm, walked to the parking spot. My Honda Civic, now 11 years old, still reliable as sunrise, started on the first try. The drive to Disney Springs took 27 minutes. Traffic was light. Most families were either inside the parks or at church. Valet at the boathouse was the same 3-year-old college kids in nautical stripes who'd been there last year. One of them recognized me. "Mrs. Thompson, welcome back. Happy Mother's Day." "Thank you, Miguel." He flushed, pleased I'd remembered his name. Inside, the hostess, Taylor again, her ponytail higher and tighter than before, led me through the main dining room to the waterfront deck. Derek and Sarah were already seated at the prime table, right at the edge, shaded by a wide striped umbrella, the lake glittering beyond them like scattered sapphires. Boats bobbed at the docks, the monorail glided past in the distance, silver and silent. Derek stood up when he saw me. Sarah rose too, holding a modest bouquet of pale pink peonies and baby's breath. "Happy Mother's Day, Maggie." She hugged me carefully, the way nurses hug, warm but mindful of ribs and balance. Derek's hug was tighter, longer. "You look beautiful, Mom." We sat. 3 flutes already waited, orange juice glowing like liquid sunset, bouncing upward in perfect lines. A server, not the same one from last year, approached with menus and a practiced smile. "Welcome back. Mimosas are complimentary for Mother's Day. Would you like to start with those?" We said yes. Derek raised his glass first. "To the best mom in the world, for surviving everything life threw at her, for teaching me what strength actually looks like, and for still loving me even after everything." His voice cracked on the last word. I touched my glass to his, then to Sarah's. "And to new beginnings," Sarah added softly. We drank. The mimosa tasted clean, crisp, celebratory. No metallic aftertaste, no hidden bitterness, just champagne and fresh squeezed juice and sunlight. Appetizers arrived. Firecracker shrimp for the table, crispy and sweet spicy. Oysters Rockefeller for Derek, a kale Caesar for Sarah, I'm trying to behave before my night shift, shrimp and grits for me, creamy stone ground cornmeal studded with Gulf shrimp and a hint of Old Bay. Conversation flowed in the easy, unhurried way when no one is pretending anymore. Derek talked about work, the new lightning lane system glitches, the guest who tried to sue because the app told him his virtual queue had expired when he was in the bathroom. Sarah shared a story from the ER, a tourist who'd swallowed a Mickey ear hat sequin on a dare and needed it surgically removed. I told them about the garden, the Cherokee purple tomatoes setting fruit at last, the Mexican sour gherkins climbing the trellis like tiny green porcupines, the Thai basil threatening to take over the entire bed if I didn't harvest it soon. No one mentioned Vanessa. Not once. Halfway through the appetizers, I excused myself to the restroom, more habit than necessity. On my way back, I passed the mimosa station. A young woman in her early 20s was refilling pitchers, her movements quick and practiced. She glanced up, met my eyes for a half-second, and gave the smallest nod. Not Miguel, someone new, but the nod felt like recognition. I returned to the table. Everything was as I'd left it. Derek snapped a photo of us, the three of us, with the lake behind us. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. I smiled, genuine, unguarded. The main courses came: Derek's ribeye, medium rare, seared crust perfect; Sarah's avocado toast topped with poached eggs and chili flakes; my lobster roll, warm buttered bun overflowing with chunks of fresh Maine lobster. We ate slowly, savoring. At one point, Derek reached across the table and covered my hand. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for believing her, for doubting you even a little." I turned my palm up, squeezed his fingers. "You loved her. That's not a crime." It almost was, but it wasn't. Sarah watched us with quiet eyes. After the plates were cleared, the server brought dessert menus: key lime pie for me, chocolate torte for Derek, fresh berries for Sarah. We were debating whether to share a slice when it happened. A different server, male, mid-20s, short beard, approached with a small tray. He set a single envelope beside my plate. "From the manager," he said, "with compliments." I opened it. Inside was a handwritten card on heavy stock. "Mrs. Thompson, we remember last year. We're honored you came back. Lunch is on the house today, and if you ever need anything at all, ask for Miguel. He still works here weekends. Happy Mother's Day. Management and staff." I read it twice. Tears pricked my eyes. Derek leaned over. "What is it?" I handed him the card. He read it. His throat worked. Sarah touched my arm. "They're saying thank you for surviving." I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. The server returned with the check, marked comped, and a small box tied with ribbon. "Also from Miguel," he said. "He's off today, but wanted you to have this." Inside the box, a tiny silver alligator charm on a delicate chain. A note tucked beneath it: "For Clarence, and for the lady who didn't let the Gators win." I laughed through tears. We ordered coffee. We sat another hour, talking about nothing and everything. The sun moved higher. The lake sparkled. The monorail glided past again. At 2:17, we stood. Derek hugged me tight. Sarah hugged me tighter. We walked out together into the bright Florida afternoon. No poison, no swapped glasses, no sirens. Just family, just sunlight, just another Mother's Day, hard-won, precious, and entirely mine. Chapter 4. The ER Inferno. Advent Health Orlando was a beast of a hospital. 62,000 square feet of ER alone, designed to handle 90,000 cases a year. The waiting room was a sea of misery. Crying toddlers, wheezing elders, the acrid tang of antiseptic masking fear. I paced, the linoleum cold under my keds, my mind a whirlwind. Derek burst out after an hour, face gaunt. "Arsenic, Mom. Acute levels. How the hell?" I pulled him to a quiet alcove near the vending machines, their hum a white noise backdrop. "Sit." The napkin came out. I spilled it all. The swap, The busboy, the months of gifts. His eyes went wide, then stormy. Vanessa? No way. She's my wife. But the tox screen didn't lie. Arsenic trioxide, 500 micrograms per liter, lethal, amplified by the champagne. This is intentional, Dr. Sophia Mayes, the emergency attending, said flatly. Her scrubs rumpled from the shift. We're looping in Orlando PD and running tests on you too, Mrs. Thompson, just in case. Vanessa stabilized by midnight, intubated in the ICU, monitors beeping a dirge, kidneys strained, liver enzymes sky high, but the chelation therapy, BAL injections, bought time. The next morning, Detective Elena Ramirez arrived, mid-40s, sharp as a tack in a navy pantsuit, her dark hair in a no-nonsense bun. Orlando PD's Major Crimes Unit. Mrs. Thompson, walk me through it. We sat in a family consult room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I recounted every detail, from the smoothies to the note. The busboy, she noted, jotting in a lever pad, Miguel Lopez. We'll track him. This reeks of premeditation, elder financial exploitation. Derek was a ghost, staring at his phone. Vanessa's texts from the night before. Feeling weird, love you. But her cloud backup told a different tale. Chapter 5. The Unraveling. By Tuesday, the feds were in. Special Agent Marcus Hale from the Orlando FBI office, a towering black man with a salt and pepper beard, executed the warrant at the Windermere Mansion. Mrs. Thompson, this goes deeper than we thought. The raid yielded gold. In a locked drawer of Vanessa's content creation studio, ring lights, green screen, the works, arsenic bottles, labeled as research chemicals. A burner phone, texts to a Miami street pharmacist. Need the good stuff. Old ladies fading fast. $50K for the kill shot. Emails forged from Dr. Elena Vargas, MD, geriatrics. Patient shows progressive dementia. Urgent guardianship recommended. Placement at Shady Palms ideal. $15K per month. Minimal family interference. Spreadsheets. Phase 1, erosion, smoothies. Phase 2, isolation, POA. Phase 3, exit, natural causes. My $2 million policy rerouted to her LLC, Glow Empire Ventures. Debt, $128,000, ballooning from influencer investments, a failed CBD line, a crypto scam. Miguel Lopez was a hero, 19, bussing tables at the boathouse to fund his abuela Rosa's chemo at Orlando Health. Rosa had died in 2022, dementia, after her DIL slipped the same poison. He'd recognized Vanessa from her Insta, seen her tamper with the Thompson picture. I couldn't watch it happen twice, he told the grand jury, voice steady. Derek moved in with me that week, sleeping on the pullout in the lanaya. Nights were long. Alligators splashing in the pond, us dissecting the betrayal over decaf. I bought the lies, Mom, he'd choke out. Every episode, she reported. I thought I was the good son. You were, I'd whisper, holding him like when he was 5 and afraid of the dark. She was the viper. My friends rallied. Evelyn organized a casserole train. Gloria reviewed my medical records, spotting the pattern. Classic chronic arsenic, peripheral neuropathy, Mees lines on nails. She was textbook. Vanessa awoke Thursday, groggy, defiant in her hospital bed. It was a mistake, she rasped to the nurse, but the search warrant on her laptop sealed the deal. How to dissolve arsenic in juice, Florida elder abuse statutes, power of attorney without consent.